Title: The Cursed Temple. Prologue: The Forbidden Map. In the dusty corners of an old library in Istanbul, archaeologist Daniel Carter stumbled upon a peculiar map hidden within the pages of an ancient manuscript. Daniel was no stranger to the thrill of uncovering forbidden history, driven by the haunting memory of his father's mysterious disappearance during an expedition years ago. Faded ink traced out an uncharted temple deep within the dense jungles of Cambodia, accompanied by a cryptic warning scrawled in an unfamiliar script. Those who seek its secrets will awaken the curse. Daniel, fueled by ambition and a desperate need to prove himself, dismissed the ominous note. 3 months later, Daniel and his team stood at the threshold of the lost temple, its stone visage cloaked in thick vines and shrouded by the dense jungle canopy. None of them knew they had already crossed a line from which there was no return. Chapter 1. Into the Depths. The temple was carved with grotesque figurous twisted faces frozen in eternal screams, serpents coiled around crumbling pillars, and murals depicting rituals long forgotten. The air grew colder with each step they took, heavy with the scent of damp stone, decaying moss, and an undercurrent of something metallic like old blood. Inside, narrow corridors twisted like a labyrinth. Flickering torchlight cast eerie shadows that seemed to stretch and breathe. The walls felt almost alive, pulsing faintly under the dim glow. Daniel led the way, dismissing the growing unease among the team. His focus was the artifact rumored to be hidden within the Eye of Sereth, said to grant immense knowledge to those who possessed it. But for Daniel, it was more than that. It was the key to solving the mystery of his father's fate. Chapter 2. The First Omen. They found the chamber after hours of navigating treacherous paths. At its center stood an altar, upon which rested a black obsidian orb pulsating with a faint, otherworldly glow. Strange markings encircled the altar, symbols shifting subtly when viewed from different angles. Daniel approached it with reverence and greed. As his fingers brushed the surface, a deafening roar echoed through the temple, and the ground trembled violently. The entrance sealed behind them, plunging the group into darkness. When the torches were relit, one of the team members, Leah, was missing. No screams, no struggle, just gone. Panic ensued, but Daniel remained obsessed with the artifact, convinced Leah had wandered off. They pressed deeper into the temple, unknowingly following in the footsteps of countless others who had vanished before them. Chapter 3. The Whispers Begin. As they explored further, the whispers began. At first faint, like the rustle of leaves in the wind, but growing louder, more insistent. The voices spoke in languages none could understand, yet the meaning was clear. Leave. The team started to unravel. Paranoia set in, friendships frayed, and trust disintegrated. Shadows moved when no one was near, and reflections in puddles showed faces that didn't belong. The walls themselves seemed to shift subtly, making it impossible to retrace their steps. One by one, they disappeared. Some wandered into dark passages, drawn by unseen forces. Others were dragged into the shadows, their screams echoing briefly before being swallowed by silence. The air grew thick with the scent of rot, and faint handprints smeared in dark stains appeared on the walls. Chapter 4. The Curse Revealed. Daniel, now alone and desperate, finally understood the warning. The temple was not a place of worship, but a prison constructed to contain an ancient malevolence known as Sereth, a deity of despair and madness. The Eye of Sereth was not an artifact of knowledge, but a beacon, awakening the entity from its slumber. Fleeing through the twisting corridors, Daniel was haunted by the faces of his lost team, their eyes hollow, voices merged with the eternal whispers of the temple. He stumbled upon Leah, but she was no longer herself. Her body moved unnaturally, her mouth stretched into an impossible grin as she whispered in a voice not her own, "Join us." Her shadow moved differently from her body, flickering like a separate entity. Daniel fled, but the whispers grew louder, voices merging with the sound of footsteps that didn't belong to him. Chapter 5. The Final Escape. Daniel managed to escape the temple, though he could not recall how. He awoke days later, alone at the edge of the jungle, clutching the cursed map. His mind was fractured, plagued by visions of the temple and the whispers that never ceased. Sometimes in reflective surfaces, he saw fleeting images of his lost team, staring back at him with hollow eyes. Back in civilization, Daniel tried to warn others, but his words were dismissed as the ramblings of a madman. The map was lost again, but the curse remained, waiting for the next curious soul to awaken it. Epilogue. The whispers never fade. Years later, a new expedition was launched, guided by tales of a hidden temple and an archaeologist who had gone mad after discovering it. Among the group was a young researcher who found an old, tattered journal left behind in a library. The first page read, "Do not seek the temple. The whispers never fade." Beneath it, faint and almost invisible unless held to the light, was a chilling addition: "I never left."